Hello and welcome to our Salesforce United episode, a podcast about Salesforce and people who work with it. Here we discuss engineering discoveries, professional secrets, and careers of our guests. I'm 𝐒𝐚𝐥𝐞𝐬𝐿, a Salesforce software testing engineer, and to my delight, your host.
Hello, my name is Elena Ulyanova. I'm a testing and Salesforce enthusiast, Salesforce consultant, and for my pleasure, the host of this Salesforce United podcast.
Today, we are thrilled to have here Warren Walters with us, a seasoned Salesforce expert with over 7 years of in-depth experience in Salesforce ecosystem. Warren has a rich background in Salesforce engineering. As the founder of 𝐒𝐚𝐥𝐞𝐬𝐿 Academy, Warren not only creates and delivers comprehensive training materials, but also guides developers through their career paths. Warren, we are welcome to see you here today.
Hi, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be on the Salesforce United podcast, and I guess a little honored too to be invited to talk about, what I do, Salesforce development.
Hello, Warren. Nice to meet you. So let's speak, first of all, about your journey in Salesforce development and what actually inspired you to pursue this career path.
Yeah, so Salesforce, I kind of fell into it like a lot of people in the ecosystem. I was going to college or university down in Florida in the US, and at that point in my university schooling, I needed to, or it was looked well upon you if you had like an internship or if you had some experience, because I was coming up on the end of my schooling. And I started looking around and applied to just many, many different companies. A few reached back out to try to, have me come in and do interviews. And I interviewed at one company down in South Florida. Their name is Ryder Systems, which you may know them. They have like the Ryder trucks. They're pretty big here in the US. They do lots of trucking and manufacturing and that kind of stuff. And I went to the interview. They talked to, about data entry and management of a software and a system. And I was just looking for an internship. So I said yes to everything and I can do it all. And finally, they landed on me and said, let's start this and you're good to go. And I jumped in, and the first day I was like, okay, let's introduce you to Salesforce. And I was like, what's Salesforce? So that was really where I got started in it, was that internship, but it was completely by accident. I didn't really seek out Salesforce and trying to learn anything about it. But through that internship, I learned so much just about what Salesforce was, the platform. Back then, it was kind of the hidden gem of the tech world and those kind of things. So back then, it was really fun to just start to learn it from the ground up. I did lots of data entry, but then eventually I moved into like an administrative role, kind of making changes in the org, doing validation rules and workflow rules. I'm kind of dating myself here, doing workflow rules and some process builders. And eventually we hit some roadblocks where it was like, okay, we can't do anything more in configuration. We're going to have to reach out to the developer that we normally contract with to get this trigger written and stuff like that. And I was just curious. So I did my Googling and saw what a trigger was and kind of understood it from there. And went to my bosses at the time. I was like, hey, do you want me to try this out? Right? I'm going to school for code. This looks like we're writing code. Can I try this before we push it to the consultant to try to get it done? Or can they review it? And they're like, yeah, sure, go for it. Right? Pay the intern, $10 an hour instead of $200 for a consultant. So they were super happy about that. And that was kind of like my first dipping my toes into Salesforce development fully, which was writing, that one trigger. And it's kind of been sky's the limit from there, right? Jumped at multiple companies, learned a lot more, been doing consulting, and now finally landing on more teaching people in the Salesforce.
Yeah, your career path is full of inspiration, I think, for the people who are listening to us. And you told us about teaching, and I would like to ask, what motivated you to take on a role of a mentor and develop your own training programs? And did you find it difficult?
Difficult. Completely. It takes a lot of time to build out material, and it takes a lot of thought to figure out how to teach someone something that you've been doing for a long time, right? How do you break it down so that somebody can get their own conclusions, build upon the fundamentals to learn these things. So why did I do it? I found it interesting. I liked mentoring people, and all throughout my Salesforce career, after I got at certain points, I loved like sharing that information and even making YouTube videos. So if you, I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later, but if you check out my YouTube channel, there are videos from like 8-9 years ago where I just liked sharing programming, and it was a way for me to also learn, because you have to learn a lot to be able to teach other people. So I've always been on kind of like this mentorship track, but I made it more official going down the path of Cloud Code and being like a trainer and that sort of thing. So, but it's really about the lack of really good training material for Salesforce developers specifically, and then like people asking questions in the community. Because when I started, there wasn't as big of a like Salesforce community that you can jump into, or Salesforce podcasts like this that you could listen to and get insights from. There were little ones here and there, but the information was really sparse and spread out. So now with the community growing so large and being so helpful, there's a lot of other resources that you can use. And I wanted to be a part of those, resources and things that people could learn from.
Great. So, Ron, based on your experience as a mentor, what critical skills, including soft and hard, do you believe every Salesforce developer should possess? How do your training programs equip them to these skills?
I think that's an interesting question. A lot of times developers really focus on those hard skills. So how do I do for loops? How do I know the best or what are the best practices in Apex or Salesforce in general? What are the governor limits? And those are really important for you to write any code and to just get going in the Salesforce ecosystem. But soft skills I found are extremely important for being able to rise faster, interview well, get jobs, right? Those soft skills will help you communicate. A lot of it comes down to communication, but those soft skills will help you communicate better with whomever you're working with. If it's a recruiter, hiring manager, internal teams, clients, I think that a lot of what we try to show people in Cloud Code is that there's one level of the fundamentals and the foundations of programming, and then there's that other side of asking questions and the critical thinking skills of, we have this huge project, how can we break it down into individual pieces, and then either split those up or figure out how to work on those one by one. So in Cloud Code, this is what we help teach, right? We give you lots of hands-on assignments, so you're building up those hard skills, those fundamental skills, but then also for our assignments and the things that we do, we don't really give you the answers for them. We work with you to help lead you along and break down the problems so that you can figure out how to, one, communicate them better, how to ask questions, work on a team, and then two, how to understand the holistic scope of Salesforce development, those best practices, and how to break those down. So it's a lot that goes into it. And we talked about like the difficulty of it, right? I've been running Cloud Code for about 2 years now and mentoring for a little bit longer. I've sort of seen some of the patterns that you can do to help teach people, especially those who have no like development background at all, help teach them the steps that they can work through to learn Salesforce and actually be successful in Salesforce development.
Okay, Warren, so you told us a little bit about your academy and also about the fundamentals such as hard skills and soft skills. But if someone wants to start learning Salesforce today, what advice would you give them, and how can they leverage from your initiatives? I mean, just one fundamental advice. So what should I start from?
Yeah, of course, you've all have heard it, right? The obligatory, like, go on Trailhead, get that stuff done. Everybody should be doing that. That's a given. Beyond that, though, there are some really great resources that are out there to help you learn Salesforce development and Salesforce in general, right? So if you like coding, or even if you don't know if you like coding, right? If you're trying to figure out what you like, check out, so in Cloud Code, we have a Salesforce Developer 101 kind of program that you can go through. It's completely free, and it'll get you started to get set up in VS Code, get your GitHub, and start writing your first code, like your Hello World applications, to see if you even kind of like this stuff, if it jives with you. I always recommend people just try it out, but there's many different like websites and things like that you can start building with. So for me, I love watching YouTube tutorials, making sure that I'm following along and building out the applications with whatever I'm watching. And then if I see that I'm interested in it, I will continue down that path. So that's kind of what I recommend for people is find some resource, if it's Cloud Code, if it's CS50, which is a Harvard programming course that you can take for free, if it's YouTube tutorials, try it out a little bit to see if you like some of the concepts and the things that you're doing as a developer. And then you can look for like programs like Cloud Code, or even just building out something on your own, right? Taking those big concepts that you're learning in other training material and then try to apply it to your own life, like building out, I don't know, a movie tracker or a running application or calories counter, right? Anything that you can kind of find that will give you some idea of if you want to continue down this path.
Great. So let's talk about those guys who completed the program. What are your recommendations to the academy graduates? How to stand out in the Salesforce job market in 2024 or 2025?
Yeah, that's crazy. We're almost to 2025. The biggest recommendation, because everybody that completes the program, they have definitely learned the fundamentals. They are alumni now, so they've completed their capstone project, which is a huge project they've got to get done. Now it's about showcasing yourself to employers. So this generally means making sure that you have a portfolio. This could be your GitHub account and profile, or creating like a Lightning Web component or a Lightning Web Runtime, an LWR experience site that is your profile that you can send out to employers so that it shows them you understand Salesforce, you understand development, and they can see your code. I think a lot of people are, there's the easy things of like getting certification. I say easy, right, with air quotes. There's getting certifications, but a lot of people are starting to have those, right? Like the admin, all the AI certs are free now. So a lot of people are getting those. And you have to start to differentiate yourself from the normal pack so that you can get jobs. So I really recommend people work on portfolios or personal projects and make sure to showcase that during the interview, or showcase that online on things like LinkedIn or other social media platforms like Twitter or X or whatever it's called nowadays, right? So the more reach you can have, the more you can showcase to an employer what you can do before you even talk to them. It'll go a long way once you jump into that interview. And I've actually been on interviews where, I post online, or they say that, oh, I think I saw a YouTube video about you, or something you put out on YouTube, and that kind of gets the ball rolling, a conversation started. So all of those platforms, I think we're getting into kind of like job market where you have to go above just the normal on paper things, which are, we've got our certifications, maybe a few years of Salesforce and Trailhead badges and things like that, because a lot of people have those. So now you have to kind of figure out what you can do to step above that. Other than that, like I really, once the graduates, once they graduate the Cloud Code program, we start to review like their LinkedIn, their resumes, and start getting on like a personal branding kind of adventure, right, that they need to go through to upgrade their profile so that it's standing above the rest of the competition that they're going through. So this could be posting on social media and things like that. And I think we even started communicating either on LinkedIn or via email first, but having that network can really start to expand out your possibilities.
Yeah, network is everything today. And we have already mentioned a number of times your Cloud Code Academy. And now, could you please tell us by what Cloud Code Academy is beneficial for those who would like to study Salesforce in comparison with other courses?
So Cloud Code is my brainchild of what I would have wanted to have, what I would have wanted to go through if I was learning Salesforce development all over again. Because I mentioned, I fell into this internship and it was great. I got to learn on the job, but I made a lot of mistakes as I was doing that. All right, I had every bad practice you can think of. I did it in that Oregon. It was really nice of them to give me that opportunity and to break stuff. And I think I was in a unique situation because I was, nobody else there was a developer, and I was just writing as much code as I can because I thought it was fun and interesting. But I did get to a point where I knew that I was doing things wrong, but I didn't know what to do, how to solve them, because the resources back then were not as plentiful as today. So what Cloud Code is all of that information, 10 plus years of development and Salesforce experience kind of condensed down into a program that anybody can join and learn on a guided path to understanding Salesforce development. So we call it the Developer Kickstart program. You come through. It's really about learning those fundamentals of Apex and Salesforce development. So we start you off at, what is a variable and how do we add them together? So by the end of it, you're writing integrations and triggers and all those things that you need to do to be ready for a junior developer job. All while you're going through that, we do study training for the Platform Developer 1 certification, which is crucial, right? It's kind of like your key to opening the door to a lot of job opportunities for people. So we want to make sure to hit on that as well. So it's lots of live sessions. We have senior level instructors teach cohorts as they're going through the program. And by the end of it, there's a few different outcomes, right? You're looking to either be ready for that junior developer job, so you're prepared and you want to jump into it. If you're more of an admin, we want you to understand development concepts a little bit better so that you can work with your teams and really understand it from that standpoint. Or if you're coming in brand new, right, you're trying to level up, or sorry, not really brand new, but you maybe you have some experience inside of Salesforce, kind of like where I was at earlier on. You have some development experience, but you're working on you may not be working with the best practices to really make sure that your org is up to date. We help teach you those best practices so that you can jump in and either rework the code that you're working on, get that promotion to a more senior dev, or to understand those deeper best practice concepts better inside of Salesforce development. So we have kind of those three main tracks of people that come through the program, and it's really about facilitating that journey for everybody as best as.
Great. It sounds very helpful for those who'd like to learn about Salesforce. But you have one more initiative. Let's speak a bit about why Salesforce extension. What inspired you to create this extension?
Yeah, the why Salesforce extension. This one is, I guess it's kind of funny. It's interesting. So if you don't know, I've created the why Salesforce Chrome extension, and it basically just adds, it's so simple, right? And that's why the name is there too. It's really about, in the setup, when you're in the Salesforce setup, it adds, you have the ability to add additional tabs to the setup. So if you wanted to add a flow tab or a user tab right next to the object, a little section in there, you have that option inside of the Chrome extension. And it's a simple idea, but it doesn't exist out of the box in Salesforce. You can customize it on the normal screen, but in the setup, you cannot. And I really created it because one day I was doing something with either lots of flows and flipping back and forth through multiple areas inside of the setup. And I got kind of annoyed that I had to search the whole time for the main tabs that I use, right? And that for me, that's users, setup, and probably the deployment section with the inbound and outbound chain sets and stuff like that. So I got kind of annoyed at that point. And I was like, you know what? This should already exist. Why doesn't this already exist inside of Salesforce? And that same day, I think I took the entire night and I just coded it up. I didn't know how to write a Chrome extension at all. And I said, okay, let me figure out how to do this, because at this point, I'm confident in my development skills. You can Google anything, and you can just watch YouTube videos and all of that to learn how to build these things. So I went through the process of figuring out how to build this Chrome extension, ideally just for me. It was a pain point just for me, but I knew other people could benefit from it. So eventually I put it out on it's like the Chrome store extension page, and it's kind of went from there. And other people seem to like it, but it really came from that moment of annoyance and like that pain point where I was like, why doesn't this actually exist? It should already be a feature. And yeah, I kind of just went from there, it's kind of it's kind of a dig at Salesforce or a joke, but it's also there to showcase some of the power of like, hey, if you know how to write code, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, these little projects like this can be something that you use to showcase, one, to employers, but also to help other people.
Warren, you told us about the benefits, but could you please specify who would benefit most from using this extension and why?
Yeah, this extension is really for everybody, and it's kind of to showcase some of the power of learning code and learning development and how you can extend platforms. So it's, anybody can use it, especially if you're in the Salesforce setup a lot and you're flipping through multiple tabs. I think it can help add that little extra like optimizations for those tabs that you go to very often, right? Save you a few keystrokes. But on the other end of that, I hope it really helps inspire people when they have pain points, especially if it's something that you are dealing with and you're, let's say, the expert on, it intimately. That might be a sign for you to look at if you can create software around solving that problem, right? Lots of companies, million and billion dollar companies, were created from like an individual's pain point. So when you have those kind of like ideas or those moments where you're annoyed, you're frustrated at something in particular, especially when you're asking like, why doesn't something work or why doesn't this already exist? You should probably, write that down, take a little note, bounce it off somebody else to see if that could potentially be software that helps somebody or potentially turn into a business that you can work with.
Great. So let's bring a bit of imagination to our conversation, and we'll speak about some future trends. Looking at the biggest picture, where do you see Salesforce technology heading in the next 5 or 10 years, especially considering emerging tech trends?
For 5 or 10 years, I think that, of course, AI is going to be there, right? Salesforce is investing heavily in it. A lot of different companies are investing heavily in it. I think that we will see lots of automations. And if you're not embracing some of those technologies right now, then you're going to be left behind. But that being said, right, we can talk about AI for a while. Let's maybe focus on some other areas, right? I feel like a lot more clouds and technologies are going to start coming onto the Salesforce core platform, right? So just like it was Sales Cloud and all of that, but just on Salesforce core. And we need to start looking at specializations from an individual standpoint on how you can be the best in a certain area, right? So you've got Revenue Cloud and you've got Field Service Lightning, Automotive Cloud coming out now too. There are a ton of different areas where I generally recommend you want to start specializing in so that you can put yourself above, let's say, the competition and lock in a job or stay relevant long term, right? With a lot of those things coming onto core. Beyond that, I feel like Flow is going to continue to get more enhancements, bringing it either on par with things like development, and some of those concepts are going to kind of blend together. And it's going to be really important to know just programming concepts in general and not just be hyper focused on like, hey, how does flow work or how does development work? You need to start becoming an engineer where you can understand best practices across the board that are universal to any of these technology stacks. Other than that, I continue to see Salesforce to grow. I'm sure there's going to be emerging competition, but I'll be hanging out here for a while, which is going
to. Thank you for your answer. And I have another one question. It's related to the artificial intelligence. What do you think? What specific artificial intelligence tools are found most transformative for Salesforce development?
This one is a great question. And every month, if you ask me, I will give you a different answer because AI tools are changing so fast. But I'll say that GitHub Copilot is one of the tools that I use. I consistently go back to, and what it does is it does AI auto completion inside of your VS Code. You can also ask it questions similar to ChatGPT about your code base, and that will help out and it'll help you understand it. But for me personally, having the auto complete in GitHub Copilot really helps me move faster. But the caveat with that is I've been writing code for a long time. Whenever it makes mistakes, which AI does oftentimes called like hallucinations, or it mixes languages together, I can pick those up very quickly. If you're a new developer and you're getting like tons of AI generated like code, it's prone to have errors. And in those errors, it may take you longer to fix it than to write it yourself as you're going through. So I want to leave that word of caution with all of the AI stuff that we talk about here, but especially on code completions and stuff like that, it has helped me tremendously. Other than that, for new learners, I really like to have them build out things on their own, but then take it to like a ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot, paste their code in there, and ask it some probing questions on how can I make this better? Am I following best practices? How can I optimize this? And then asking it to explain why it's talking about these optimizations. So I think that's really key, is you don't just want to trust it blindly. There has to be that human interaction, and it needs to explain the things that it's generating for you.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Okay, so it seems that we are done for today. Thank you very much, Warren, for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you all for having me on. And of course, if you want to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn and all of that stuff. So just find me there at Walters954 on most social media platforms. And I'm happy to have a conversation, do some mentoring sessions, anything like that.
Great. Thank you guys for the conversation. Thank you, dear listeners, for being with us. So, as always, we will be very happy to receive any comments, questions, and ideas. And if you liked the podcast, please rate it on the platform and share with friends. Till very soon, till the next interesting podcast. Stay tuned.
Until then, keep trailblazing. Goodbye.